This week, we get into a historic album. The members of this band alone should indicate the quality of music we're about to hear. The names of these members will stretch for many decades to come, and the impact that the Blanton Webster edition of the Duke Ellington Band will forever be noted because of this collection of songs. This week, Duke Ellington, the Blanton Webster Band, recorded on RCA Bluebird. It's out on CD and LP. It was recorded the 6th of March, 1940 through the 26th of July, 1942.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Thanks for tuning in.
So let's kick off with some clips. Dad, you wanted to hear a specific song, Pacific Song.
Yes, Bojangles. Start at like a minute and 35 seconds and play for maybe 40 seconds.
All right, then. Here we go, Bojangles. That's a good place to stop that.
If I may stray just a little bit from the music itself, which I really enjoy anyway, and with the swing and the beat to it. But the title of the track, Bojangles, took me to a place of Mr. Bojangles. And how many artists played that? I believe, as I read, the first person to sing the song publicly was Jerry Jeff Walker. Do you recognize that name, Drew?
Country.
He played this song at ACL, Austin City Limits. And he played it because he met a man who identified himself as Bojangles. He didn't want to give his real name. And they spent several hours in the slammer together, both suffering from intoxication. And Mr. Bojangles told him the story, and Walker put it into lyrics and put it into music. So that's one of the big reasons I highlight or wanted to highlight this track. And I remember years ago when we were at the church in Ari, and we had a man come for a couple nights, and he sang the song and danced to Bojangles. Now, I doubt if you guys would remember that. Harlan Wright was his name, and he was a tall, thin man, and he danced like a puppet on a string. He just, it was so very cool. At church, he sang Mr. Bojangles.
I would have never associated the two, Mr. Bojangles from Jerry Jeff Walker, to this song, but I think the most common times I've heard it is out at Green when somebody's singing it, or at Lukenbach, and I've probably been about 3 or 5 or 10 beers into it. So, Mr. Bojangles is a great country twang song.
Sammy Davis Jr. sang this song in Germany when he was touring in Germany, and basically the crowd went wild. And I'd suggest, for historical nostalgia kind of feeling, for our listeners, if they've not heard Mr. Bojangles, go check it out.
That explains why you check out Jerry Jeff Walker singing
yes.
the YouTube video today. So
yes, definitely. There you have it, Bojangles.
I'm thinking the same thing. Shoo! Where did we go with that one?
Outside the box. Outside the box.
But
It's
that's Mr.
improv.
Bojangles, isn't it?
It's improv, baby. It's improv.
It is. Matt,
Yeah.
what about you? What
All right.
what song did you want to?
Off of disc number 2, song, I told you 14, but it's actually song number 17. This one is Just a Sittin' and a Rockin'. Just start right from the beginning. Just play the first 30 seconds or so.
I got to hear the trumpet. There, I'll stop it right there.
That song swings so hard that it just almost knocks you off your seat because it's just swinging. So, and it doesn't, it's not a
Mhm.
fast, the tempo is not a fast tempo song, but
No.
that just goes to show that you can swing hard on a slow tempo. And thanks for playing the trumpet solo because it is an amazing version. You know, it's Ellington and Strayhorn wrote that tune together. So you know that the composition of the tune is going to be amazing anyways. I loved it so much. I couldn't wait to get to that song on disc number 2 almost every time I listened to the album this week.
It's a great, really good selection, Matt. That brought the whole album to life, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've said it a few times. Disc number 2. This was a box set compilation. It's 3 hours of Duke Ellington music. Is it 320 or something like that?
353.
350 is 4 hours of it. But as I mentioned in the opening, it's the Webster Blanton version. And I had to associate that to like Miles Davis' first great quintet or his second great quintet. The Blanton-Webster junction here is what we're listening to. So Mr. Ben Webster and Johnny Blanton, the bassist. So we'll get more into that in the discussion in the slideshow, I'm sure. But yeah, there's a lot of music to consume in 1 week.
Yeah, you've been here for a while. You go home now.
It's all you can eat. You ate all. You go home. That's how I felt getting through this album. Are we there yet? Man, I'm only on song 25. I still got 60 more to go.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any problem listening to any one of the songs.
No.
You know, it's Duke Ellington and his arranger and composer, Billy Strayhorn. And then to hear Ben Webster playing the saxophone, I mean, come on.
Right.
But Blanton, I didn't know about him until later, so I'll get into that. I mentioned Billy Strayhorn because this is a song that's a quintessential jazz tune that everybody
and their mama knows.
I was gonna say everybody, their mama's sister's cousin's brother's niece, twice removed. Everybody's heard it. Everybody's played it. It's probably one of the most popular songs ever. But when I dug into it the first time to hear the story of it and where Strayhorn came up with Take the A Train, I fell in love with the tune and I love playing it still today. So I want to hear Take the A Train. I'm just going to start at the beginning. All right, I'm going to stop it right there. I will go on with that song. I just love it. And the particular arrangement in this song, that particular one, it hits very different today for me. So listening to this album this week, we've been doing a lot of big band arrangements on Sunday nights now. And so you start to hear what Billy Strayhorn is all about writing these arrangements. And to me, I just got excited listening to this song again. And it's Take the A Train. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Quintessential jazz tune.
I would say for me, that song is in the top 10 of my all-time favorite jazz songs. Top 10. I can't say where it's at on number 10 because it fluctuates depending on what else I'm listening to. But that one is a go-to top 10 jazz standard song for my ears.
Will it ever drop below 10?
No.
Good.
No.
How much of fluctuation are you allowing, I guess?
Oh, two or three spots maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love hearing it off the album. I love hearing it live when Three Rivers Big Band plays it. I actually enjoyed playing it when I was in the military band and we did jazz band, big band combo stuff. It's fun to play. It's like you said, it's pretty quintessential jazz standards. Good pick. That's a good pick.
Let's get into some information.
Just like I say every week, and I'm going to continue to say for the next 13 weeks, whatever you do, do it to jazz. You'll hear that coming up in just a few minutes in our Week in Music. But for now, we're going to talk about the Duke Ellington, the Blanton Webster Band, 1940 to 1942. On the artwork slideshow, I did go ahead and put 2 album covers on there this week because there is the original album cover. That's the one with the piano keys on the right and the outline of Duke's face. And then the one on the left is from the re-release from 2003. The name of that is called Never No Lament, the Blanton Webster Band. So it was re-released with a new album cover. So there's kind of really literally 2 artworks for the album this week. Let's go ahead and move on to the jazz style for the day. We're going in alphabetical order off the wiki page. European free jazz is the next one in order. So European free jazz is a part of the global free jazz scene with its own development and characteristics is the definition of European free jazz. Now, I don't know how you can have free jazz as the definition of free jazz, but that's the definition that Wiki gives you. Some examples, we covered Peter Brotzmann a while ago. It's one of our best watch episodes. So Peter Brotzmann is European free jazz. And then Evan Parker. I did not put any Evan Parker in my ear, and I know what Peter Brotzmann sounds like. So I didn't have to put that one back in my ear.
Not going to do it, huh?
Nope, not going to do it.
I made the kids today, after we were done editing some video, I put in Peter Brotzmann to see what we could do for the calm day of them tie-dyeing T-shirts. I said, how about we mix it with this right here? So I played Machine Gun. I had half of them dig in and want to know what it was, and the other half ran out of the classroom. So European free jazz.
Anyways, let's move on to the next slide. The Where You Can Get It slide. We say it every week. It's on all the major streaming platforms. This one is. We would prefer that you go out and find it local at your local record store. So buy it local. I did put a quote by Duke at the bottom of that slide. This is a very well-known quote. You've probably heard it yourself, but it don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing.
Do-wop, 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 do-wop.
Yep, that's a quote by Duke Ellington. I know.
Don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. It don't mean a thing, all you gotta do is swing.
It's a cool quote. And, based on this week's album, this whole album is just a swinging album. I mean, so yeah, I thought the quote fit really well. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. Let's move on. This year in history, because the album spanned 2 years from 1940 to 1942, I just selected 1942 as this year in history. So I don't mean to leave out any other year, so please don't take offense. But 1942, World War II was in full swing. Swing, because this is a swinging album, right?
Punny.
Yeah,
Very punny.
there, funny. Roosevelt was president in 1942. Sarah Vaughan was discovered at the Apollo Theater. So 1942, made her big debut at the Apollo, and she was recognized, and just, oh, what an amazing singer, jazz musician she is. The guitarist Charlie Christian passed away in 1942, and we talked about Charlie just a few episodes ago. Charlie Christian and his guitar, his jazz guitar. So he passed away in 1942. Trumpeter Thomas Stanko was born in Poland in 1942. Now, why is that fact relevant? I mean, you got World War II going on in Europe, Poland being a major part of World War II. And so I found it interesting that Thomas, if you know anything about me, you've seen any of my TikToks lately, it's about the Esbjorn Svensson trio. Thomas Stanko is the week that we kind of rabbit holed Esbjorn and Thomas in that whole kind of realm. Thomas, I fell in love with Thomas that week, and I continue to go back to his music regularly, actually, believe it or not. So he's a name that I recognize. I want you guys to recognize his name as well. Thomas Stanko was born in Poland. In 1942, in August, the musician strike begins. And we've talked about that on prior episodes about the music strike and why it happened and the effects of the music strike. But yeah, if you want to know more about the 1942 music strike, hit it up on Wiki. I won't say much more about that. Do you have anything else to say?
It really did shape what we're about to experience from 42 to 45. Bebop isn't being recorded. Vocalists have to be recorded versus musicians. And this is, the unfortunate thing is, this is Duke's comeback. So he had been quiet for a couple of years up until this recording, until this great meeting of Blanton Webster. So to come back and have such a big impact in the swing music, only to have the strike hit, it kind of puts a dampener in the motion that he's got going right now. So that's the only reason I would have anything more to add to it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the timeline slide. Duke was born in 1899. Man, what a long time ago. 1899. He started working with Billy Strayhorn in the late 30s. And in the 1940s, particularly 40 to 42, the critics called this Duke's golden period. Like you said, this is his golden era. He was kind of on the pendulum on the way back up in 40 and 42. So then again, this album was released in 1986. The original release was in 86. The Never No Lament release was then again in 2003. So I found that interesting because it was recorded in the 40s, but it wasn't released until 86 as a compilation. Duke passes away in 1974. So that's just a brief timeline of Duke. Again, I tried to change the facts from the last time we covered Duke. Yeah, so just give some more interesting facts.
I appreciate that. I want to say this as I'm looking for something else here. Duke passes, and as we get to the next slide, you're going to talk about this in 6 Degrees with Miles, but Miles Davis played at Duke's funeral. And that was a big, big deal because they had a friendship that was pretty deep, and Miles had turned him down in the 50s to do his own thing. So, yeah.
All right. So on the information slide, the influences that I found, these were pretty well known. I did use these over from the last time we talked about Duke, but Bubber Miley, as a trumpeter, and Louis Brown, his piano player, were some of Duke's influences. I'm sure that you guys can let us know the influences that you think Duke had, and we'd love to hear it from you. So let her rip on that. It's got 96 studio releases and 65 live recordings. What an accomplishment. What an accomplishment. I mean, that's a lot of music to listen to. So I know the Blanton Webster was 3 hours and 53 minutes. That's a ton, to kind of digest in a week anyways. And to go on with 95 more albums plus 65 more live, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of music. So, This album, the genre that I've got is jazz, swing, and big band. Of course, you heard the jazz and the swing aspects on our clips. The big band, Take the A Train's big band tune. So you
Yeah.
kind of fits right into that genre. So 6 degrees this week. Clark Terry. I mean, I just put Clark right in the middle. I suppose if I wanted to skip Clark, we could just go to the funeral but I like I like to see who played with to get to Miles. So
Yep. Can I interject on this one?
of course you can.
If you look into the album 1958, and it is called Live at the Plaza Hotel, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Duke Ellington and Miles Davis shared the stage with such likes as Billie Holiday and others. It was a Columbia album tribute night at the Plaza Hotel. I cannot find on any, and I was only digging the last couple of days, I cannot find if they actually played on the same song, but there is some that indicate yes, Duke would have stepped into play as Miles later did on Volume 2, Step Up to Play. So I do have Volume 1 and 2, Live at the Plaza in 1958, Miles and Duke together.
Is that a Duke compilation? So you'd
I
find it
think
under
Volume
Duke?
2 is listed as Duke, Volume 1 was listed as Miles.
Okay.
So if you look for Miles Davis, Live at the Plaza Hotel, Volume 1, it was on Columbia. And it was their night of celebration with all the Columbia musicians.
Nice.
And then at a jazz festival, I can't find it right now. Shoot. I think it was the same year. Miles was actually introduced on the stage by Duke Ellington. So I did find that. I mean, if Duke Ellington's going to introduce that Miles Davis is coming up, and he says it in such a manner, and I'll play that clip in a little bit, says it in such a manner that you almost wonder if it's not him sitting at the piano to introduce that Miles is going to be playing with him.
I have another listing here of a group that's coming up. It looks like these gentlemen live in the realm that Buck Rogers is trying to reach. We start with a couple of gentlemen you've heard before, Percy Heath, bass, and Connie Kay, drums of the Modern Jazz Quartet. And then we go on down to Miles Davis, trumpet. Miles Davis.
I found that more than interesting. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
All
I
right.
love Clark Terry. He's the greatest of all time.
Well, and again, that's why I left Clark in the middle there in the first place, because I knew that you were a huge fan of CT, and I am too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. All right, a few facts about Duke. He was born and raised in Washington, D.C. Just an interesting fact that I thought I'd put on there. He was known for writing for the 78 RPM time frame. So the 3 minute and 20 seconds was about all they could fit on the 78. So all his compositions were written for that 78 RPM. The critics at the time called him the most significant composer of the genre. And I think critics today still pretty much call him the most significant composer of the genre. I mean, you think about big band, Glenn Miller comes to mind, of course. Woody Herman comes to mind, of course. But Duke, I mean, he should be the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Duke was very eloquent and very, very charismatic. and when I say eloquent, his the way that he looked, the way that he dressed, the way that he presented himself on stage and off stage. It's funny because I remember my boss where I work always wore a suit and tie, and I always pictured him mowing the grass on his riding mower in his suit and tie. Like he'd never go out and change clothes to mow the grass. It's just what he wore, right? Just his suit and tie. So that's how I picture Duke as well. Yeah, his suit and tie. Duke moved away from home and started playing professionally at just 17 years old. Now, we've heard some other of the musicians left home and started playing 15, 16, 17. I just found it interesting. I left home to start playing professionally in the military at 17. So me and Duke have that in common. Dad had to sign the paperwork for me to get out of the house. Anyways, all right, let's move on. The Blanton Webster Band. The recordings were originally made for RCA Victor, and they ended up on the RCA Bluebird label. So I found that fact interesting, how they can record for one label and produced and released on a different label. Critics, again,
they're both RCA, right?
both RCA, yes. I
That may have been a corporate change somewhere between 40 and 80.
true. But I remember Jeanette had several different the labels as well. Jeanette Blue Label, and they had the Red
The
Star
Champion
and
label.
the Champion. So yeah, maybe that was just a different label they were released under. Critics said this should be in core collection of music. The Blanton Webster Band specifically, not just Duke, but this album specifically in core collection. Jimmy Blanton does not appear on the last 17 tracks. So it's been a long week. I forgot why I added that fact. I found the fact interesting that on the third release is all, they could have spaced it out a little different, maybe. Maybe put some tracks on the first CD that he wasn't on the second CD that he wasn't on, but they chose to leave him off all 17 tracks on the last CD. So then again, it was re-released in 2003 as Never No Lament. Never talked about. I mean, we've already talked about that.
It's
right.
I find that interesting because in 2003 when they released it as Never No Lament, 4 years after that song was written in 1940, in 1944 the lyrics came out for that song. Don't Get Around Much Anymore was the actual the way that I think most people think of that song. So in 2003 to actually call it Never No Lament is of curiosity to me. Why not go by its current title? But bless you. Let's do some conversation about this.
Ready to rate this album and talk about it and tell why we rated it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, since I'm warmed up, let me go ahead and give my rating, and then I'll let you guys give your rating, and then we'll talk about why we scored it that way. This week, and I cemented my score on my walk today. I mean, we cemented it a year ago when you and I did it personally, Drew, but my score this week was a 9. I couldn't go all the way to 10, but my score this week was a 9 for the Blanton Webster Band.
Do you want to explain?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Any more information that you would like to add to that?
I was kind of releasing some tension on our walk this evening. We took the dog for a walk, as we do almost every evening, but I was telling Kendra about the album, about how 3 hours and 53 minutes is just a lot of Blanton to listen to. It kind of, for me, it gets not repetitive, but almost to the spot where I can zone out completely because there's not really any new stuff to keep you interested. Once you hear an hour of it, it all kind of sounds almost the same. I hate to say that, especially with an icon like Duke Ellington, so please don't rip my head off, but I did not really care for the vocal tunes. I'm not a huge vocal jazz fan in the first place. It's not my go-to, but these tunes are the old classic vocal. I don't know how to describe it. They just weren't. It just wasn't my style. So
Classic.
Yeah, it's classic jazz vocalist. So that's why I gave it a 9 and not a solid 10.
For the length of it and the fact that there was some vocal. Dad, you're up.
I can concur. I gave it a solid 9. And for some of the same reasons, man, I didn't go higher. I was overwhelmed with the number of tracks. A lot of them didn't move me. I didn't feel it. The emotion. Some of the tracks, yes, not all of them. It seemed like you said, repetitive. The tone quality, of course, in the 40s wasn't there. And I picture the vocalist, standing with one of those microphones that I don't even know how with the metal around it.
Yeah, the chrome cage around it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's that's what they did. That's all they had back then. But it just wasn't my style, wasn't my feel. Obviously, a historical setting, I scored that a solid 10. I also the rhythm, and what I realized is the rhythm was done by the bass players. I saw one of the tracks, a video of one of the tracks. There was a dude with a floor tom. It was not a full drum set. And in the 40s, they did not use a drum set like they do today. So I scored the rhythm really high, just because there was some real solid rhythm to it. And so I appreciated that about the album.
Yeah.
But again, I was overwhelmed with, I don't think I listened to every piece on this, partly because of the week that I had, but
It's
be that as it may, a 9.
chunk. I mean, it's a big chunk of music to try and, there are weeks when the album goes by so fast, and then you're like, well, it's over. I got to listen to it again right now. This time around, it took me a few days to make it through all 3 of the CDs. So I totally get that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This music to me just really, I gave it a 9. And I'm a solid 9. I think, Matt, the week we talked about it, I couldn't tell you why I wouldn't go to a 10. I still feel that way. I don't know that I could. I think it's the length of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do have to, it's a compilation, and I have to remind myself of this all the time. Listening to Miles Davis and the Plug Nickel, listening to the Herdsmen, listening to so many other albums that were 2 to 4 hours long, I don't think anybody is expected to do it in 1 week. But like you, I would find myself dazing off. Listening, I'm out on a bike ride.
Yeah.
And I went, did I even listen to the last 5 songs? Now, that's just 15 minutes, right? Because you got limited time. Did I listen? I don't think I listened to those. So I'd get in the car on the way to drop off the kid at school, and I'd play them again and go, nope, I didn't listen to those this morning. So by the time I'm done, I've listened to the album 5 times via rewind and start over.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started targeting the songs that were listed in the magazine. We're using the Jazzwise magazine, top 100 albums that shook the world. And they mention a couple of songs based on, like, the blues and Coco. These are the songs that the writer need to be highlighted for. And so I started going back going, okay, which ones are important? Inevitably, I would start at Take the A Train. Okay, I'll start right there with that song. Then I'll fast forward to the others. But there was so much great music on the album that if you tried to do it in 3 hours, don't. Break this up over a couple of weeks and just say, okay, I'm going to notate that I'm listening to album 1, album 2, album 3. I loved it. Go ahead, Matt.
We say it every week, but again, this week particularly, it's hard to listen reverently to every piece because of our attention span. It's hard to listen reverently. So, like Drew's saying, I totally agree with you. Break it up into chunks. Listen reverently for 25 minutes for 5 songs in a row. Then put it aside for a minute or 10 or an hour and come back and listen reverently for another 20 minutes.
Yep.
Let me ask you, if you were to use the word respect and respectfully listen to Duke and his composition style and the Blankton and Webster group, you got to respect those guys. When we're talking 1940, 42,
Mm-hmm.
they could make a sound.
Yeah, for sure.
I respect that.
I love all the stories. I love the facts. And we did Duke live at
Newport.
That recording wasn't quite as long, and it was live. And I talk about listening to the live stuff all the time. I'd much rather listen to a live album because they have to be spot on because every album is live recording, but in the studio and not necessarily in the 40s, right? Not necessarily in the 40s. You kind of got what you got. I probably, if there was a huge mistake or somebody farted on microphone, they'd re-record it. But otherwise, you kind of got what you got. It was just hard for me to listen to reverently. Respect.
One of the things that I really did get into this week, it's Blanton Webster Okay, we've listened to Ben Webster before, Ben Webster and Art Tatum. We know his sound, we know his style, we love his flair of things. But I didn't realize that at the time, even this week, why it was Blanton Webster. Well, these two had just been brought on to Ellington's band. And Webster changed the way forever we will listen to saxophone music. Jimmy Blanton, why is that so important to me? And that's the bass guitar. Up until Jimmy Blanton joined Duke Ellington, he had two bass guitars. And then when Jimmy came on, he started to play the bass guitar in a way that was actually a featured solo instrument in Duke's bands. Just to know that he is really, I might call him the father of modern day jazz bass guitar, double bass. He played so different compared to everybody else of his time that it became a stand-up instrument that everybody was going to love and respect. 1942.
Well, and Duke is the one who would compose music around the instrumentalist anyways. So for him,
Clark Terry, he wrote compositions for a flugelhorn, even though he had originally hated the flugelhorn.
so for him to write compositions for Blanton, it does not surprise me to showcase and highlight the stand-up double bass.
And then, of course, Ben Webster.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, come on. I found this interesting fact today. When Ben Webster passed, it was I don't know if it was will, but left instructions that no one would ever blow his horn. It was the same horn that he used from 1938 to 1973. When he passed, no one will ever blow his horn again. And I found that interesting because, I'm a year and a half into this new beginner trumpet, and I'm already eyeballing the next one and the next one. And I need a bigger bell. I need a deeper sound. I needed this. I needed that. I want polished, or I want raw. I want this. He played the same horn from 38 to 75. And when you listen to Ben play, you know that you've heard it.
Mm-hmm.
I realized in the last minutes before taking a break here from the desk, one of my favorite albums in the whole wide world, The Happy Horns of Clark Terry, and that was Ben Webster.
On the
And
sax.
I just thought, my goodness, I'm done with that. And one of your favoriteest albums, maybe part 2, with Oliver Nelson.
Oh,
More blues in the abstract truth.
true. Yep.
And to know that Blanton left his mark, to know that Webster left his mark, to know that Duke had written songs for those two, and Billy Strayhorn too. But Billy Strayhorn got to be such good friends with Duke that their sounds, their arrangements, their compositions were very much the same. And they knew their musicians extremely well. So that's what started to blow me away, the historical impact, the historical musicians. Cootie Williams on here. I mean, how many other names did we not know? Ray Nance.
Nance, yes.
And then you start to hear him on the Live at Newport. And he talks about then Johnny Hodges, which is on this album as well. So you just start looking at Chauncey.
He mentions all those names live at Newport, and we've already done that album, so we've heard the names, but then for it to come back around here in the 40s, and to know that Live at Newport came out in 58, and he's been playing with these guys for so long that they got to be buds.
Yeah,
they're working together, playing together, traveling together.
And I can't remember the order of it. I think that Clark Terry left Count to go work for Duke.
Yeah.
And he called in sick and said, I'm going to be out for a few months.
Uh-huh.
And in that few months, he was trying to figure out how to tell Duke or tell Basie, but Basie knew. If you think about the longevity of those musicians at the time, what an impact.
Did you say count? Count?
Don't you say it. I'm going to hang up on you.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm gonna play a low G for you.
So, I failed to mention it in the slideshow, just like I do every week, but in the Jazzwise countdown, they have done 2 other lists, a 99 list and an 06 list. On the 99 list, this album, the Blanton Webster Band, was was ranked at number 3. So this was very, very, very high in the countdown. Very low, which means it's really, really good in the countdown. In the 06 list, we're at number 14. And then again on the 2022 list, it came in at number 13. So it's been in the top 15, all 3 lists that Jazzwise has created. I found that fact interesting because normally sometimes we see a huge swing where it's number 85 and then it drops down to number 20 and then, whatever. But this one stayed in the top 15, all 3 lists. For
In
good
other words,
reason.
it didn't swing far.
It,
In the top 15.
it swung hard, but it did not swing far.
Would you guys put this on a top to listen to for new music lovers, new listeners?
Except for the number of tracks that the person has to get through. But I like your idea. So don't try to listen to the whole thing all at one time. Listen to several tracks, set it aside and go back to it the next day or whatever. Or pick out some of your favorites and play them.
What I might say then is create your personal Spotify list for this album. What would your songs be if you created a must-listen Spotify list? What would the top 20
off of
this album? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Ooh.
Duke Ellington, Blanton Webster Band's Spotify list, so that you don't have to listen to all the songs. The problem that I would have with that, though, you've got to respect all of them.
Yeah, they're on there for a
banned.
reason. They're on there for a
So-
reason. But here's the other thing. If you don't listen to them all, you may miss a new favorite of yours. You know what I mean?
Right.
When I saw the song Never No Lament, I thought, okay, it's the name of the album, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. But Never No Lament is actually the song Don't Get Around Much Anymore. I knew that song. Why did I know that song? Because Chicago plays it on their jazz album. I love their version of it. The tune's in my head. It's an earwig. I hear it all the time. It's in my head. And so if I would have skipped Never No Lament just based on the title, I'd have never known that it was Don't Get Around Much Anymore. And the clip this week, the clip that I picked became one of my favorite clips, my favorite songs off of it.
Yep. So, in other words, listen to it. Yes, it's a
Yes.
must. And I was going to say in those earlier years, 36, 37, Fate Marble, Maribel. We had talked about Fate before as a Steam Cruise big band.
Yep.
That was where Jimmy Blanton really kicked off. And so you see that transition in 10 years to what we're listening to. It's a historical look at jazz, which, again, what an impact. Listen to the album.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Dad,
Anyways,
tell us from 1940 to 1942, what's new today in jazz?
What's new?
We've got an album called Chaos. It's done by Bad Bad Not Good Group.
All
And
one word.
All one word, capitalized. Bad Bad Not Good, capital letters. And I'm a little bit confused about the whole thing because one of the things is Mid Spiral as an album cover. Chaos is one of 3 interconnected EPs, including Order and Growth. So this is an album that was released, I believe, in May of 24. The group is from Toronto, and the album actually was recorded in the studio. Actually, I thought at first it was recorded in Toronto, but it was recorded in LA. I read further about that. Did you guys see that?
no, the notes that you sent said it was Valentine Studios in Toronto, but
Yeah.
Yep.
Valentine's in LA. Another interesting thing about this album, several of the tracks sound to me very similar to Ezra Collective. Yeah. So there's some good stuff on this album. It's the genre is alternative and indie
Okay.
jazz, and this group has been nominated for 5 Grammys, and they actually won 2 Grammys. And they're a new group. I think it's like 2010 when they started playing together. So it's pretty good in terms of the impact that they've had already. What else could I say about that? But I would encourage our listeners, our followers, to go and listen to this album, because there's some really good music here. Realizing it's alternative indie, but it's very contemporary, and obviously new. It's new, so it's going to have that newer jazz kind of sound to it, which is not bad. I think it's great. Obviously, we're moving from the 40s with Duke into 24. So there's a wide range of music between that. But again, I encourage our listeners, our followers, to go listen to Chaos. Any other comments about Chaos? I like the album cover too, by the way.
Plain and simple, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a red rose at the top right corner of that.
I will admit I didn't get much of a chance to listen to much of the album, so I'll keep my comments.
Well, listen to a track or two this week, and let's talk about what it sounds like for you, how it strikes you, and maybe our listeners too would listen to it and give us some feedback about their sense of the album.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about Bad, Bad, Not Good.
Yeah, bad, not good.
Is it bad, or is it not good, or is it good?
No, it's bad, not good. I think if you emphasize bad in today's culture, it's bad, man. It's really bad, meaning it's really solid good.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
yeah, cool. Yeah.
All right, Drew. Tell us how about your weekend music.
Well, Dad's warmed up, so why don't he go ahead and start? What's your week been like?
Well, let me start by saying it was a long week. Our friend, very best friend in the whole wide world, Miss Bonnie, was with us Monday,
My
Tuesday,
condolences to you.
until Wednesday.
Oh, there was 3 days.
Yes,
That's 4 days too many.
that's exactly right. I didn't have time at all because, like a lot of people, and she hasn't seen us for a while, talking about people that Mom knows. I don't have a clue. Anyway, I had fantastic drum lesson last week. Drum teacher Lady D was encouraging me to work on my dynamics: loud, soft, forte, double forte, piano missimo, or whatever it is, and so I'm trying to work through those dynamics, and it's a challenge. It's really a challenge. I was on the drum kit at church 2 days this week, and I'm finding that in my head I can play all this music. I can play it. And then I sat down, and my feet and my hands, they don't coordinate.
Drew and I had that very conversation on Friday.
About me.
No, not about you. No, about me and about him. We can hear it up here. It's up here. But once it gets here and it just does not come out. I can hear the greatest trumpet solo on the face of the planet, but I cannot get it to come out because it's stuck up here.
Yeah.
That was Saturday.
Yeah.
So Saturday morning was I meet with a group of young guys, and I was there for an hour and a half, and then we went to the VFW for breakfast, which is always such a joy. Unfortunately, and you might want to talk about Lady D, where she was Saturday night, but I can at least say this much.
Go Purdue. Oh, continue. I'm sorry.
She was on campus at IU.
Yes, she was.
Matt, I'm sure you'll cover that.
Yeah, go
The other
ahead.
thing-
Go ahead. Talk.
well, I only heard a little bit of the reaction, the response on because we called her and talked to her on her birthday, which was yesterday, and the group Gunslinger played, I think, from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock or something like that, at the tailgate parties, and to me, that's out of this world. I mean, that's fantastic. And IU, they were at the campus playing right outside the stadium.
The photo she posted, she was like right there at the main entrance.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that cool? That's very cool. So I congratulate her and the group for being able to be there. And then I want to say this. I spent a good bit of time watching videos of Charlie Kirk. And it's very emotional to me. And the thought and the realization that someone hateful enough to kill a man, and maybe that's all I need to say without going too far with it. But
I liken it to the historical impact that we don't quite understand today. You know, how big of an impact has MLK made and his assassination? And it's taken years to realize, for everybody to realize, the importance that he stood for. And
Okay,
so
let's put it into music perspective. John Lennon was assassinated for his preaching piece as well.
Yeah.
He just did it through music.
Yep.
So that's all I'm going to say about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's pretty much my week.
Well, then I'll finish with that since I've interjected everything into Dad's week anyways. Going back to your drum lesson, why Matt and I talked on Saturdays, I left my trumpet lesson. Lily was occupied, so I scored her 1 hour moment with Joe. And I tell you, for the life of me, I could hear what I wanted to play in my head. And it's just that simple. It was find an easy melody, make some quarter notes happen, hold some long tones, just play the thing. And I'm like, it's just going to be beautiful. Every note was not in the key. Every rhythm was not part of the song. Everything that came out of the horn was everything that should not have. And Joe was being straight and honest. Usually he will fluff things and go, well, you know, there was a couple of good notes in there. Oh, no. He's got, ooh, that was rough. Just one time he said, just stop right here. I can't deal with it anymore. So.
All right, but if you'd have been sitting with Miles, he'd have said, "Now that's 20. That note is only 20%. You got to have the 80% attitude to go with it.
Well, see, I didn't even have the 80% to go with it. That was my mistake.
Give Joe your 80% attitude and play the wrong notes. Say, nope, those are the right notes.
The wrong note's the one you play after, right? It was the right note the first time. The second note was the wrong one.
Were you stressed out about playing in front of Joe? Were you stressed
No,
out?
I've been working on Lullaby of Birdland for the week. I'm playing the head over and over again, finding my rhythm, finding the right notes to play at the right time based on chord changes. Going through these processes. And so I had found a couple of rhythms, I had found a couple of patterns, found a couple of things that went well, and I've played them independently. And then sitting down in front of Joe, I just could not play it. The rest of my week has been just filled with all kinds of stuff. Getting ready for classes Monday through Thursday. It's just been a weird week. It's just to the grind, and I think there's something off with the force. I really do. So I found myself, and this is my ending today. We finished a great class today. I went and practiced for an hour, and the stage lights were on. I practice on the stage at the school while I'm waiting for Lily to finish up her day. And the curtains were open, and I play between two curtains so that the whole world doesn't hear me practicing. But they were all open. And there's this beautiful 40-foot tall by 80-foot wide white wall. And I'm sitting there staring at it, listening to Blanton Webster. And I'm thinking, we could use a stage for the film class. I can get the students in here. We can do some filming, move the lights around. It had to have been 15 minutes that I was just sitting in a chair staring at a blank wall. And then the grounds crew came in, and I was like, oh, hey. And he goes, you all right? I was like, yeah, I'm just thinking about what we could use this wall for. And he says, that was some deep thought. We've been in here 5 minutes making noise. I'm like, yeah, I feel real bad. I just zoned out staring at this big white wall. So that's my week. That's my week.
Wow.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I think the force is off. I'm not in tune. There's been a big project at work that's taken a lot of my focus for the last 10 days, and I probably got 10 more days to go of the project. So I did do my due diligence with the album this week. It's not that I sloughed it off and wrote it off. I spent as much time as I could in the Blanton, but Friday night we took some friends out to the winery to hear Sunglasses at Night. Our friend Brad, the drummer, plays the drums for that band, and it was an amazing night. The weather was perfect. The friendship was really, really good that night, and Sunglasses at Night was amazing. Saturday, of course, talking about Lady D playing for the IU game. We spent some time with our friends watching the IU game on television, and it just happened to be a blowout, so we left at the end of the third quarter. Sunday, yesterday, again, was Johnny Appleseed. It was Delaney's birthday, so I didn't really have much of a chance to listen to Blanton yesterday. I did put him in my ear today again, of course, but it's just been an off week. Everything is up and down, and my emotions are up and down, and yeah, so it's just how the week went.
Do you want to say any more about Johnny Appleseed?
Well, Johnny Appleseed is this year was the 50th year that they were doing it. So, Drew, the year that you were born is when the Johnny
Thanks
Appleseed.
for reminding me I am old also.
Yeah.
But you know
It's
what?
like-
You two are still much older than me. So
That's true. That's true. We do it in Fort Wayne every year, though. The Johnny Appleseed Festival is a festival around the character John Chapman, who became known as Johnny Appleseed. Well, he was known for wearing the tin cap. Our baseball team is the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, named after Johnny Chapman. Johnny Appleseed. So his grave is located here. His grave is located here in Fort Wayne, and the park is built around his grave. It overlooks the Fort Wayne War Memorial Coliseum. So it's a great venue. It's a fairly large park, and it is very well attended every single year. So the cool thing about it is they dress in period. So there's not the chintzy sunglass stands that sell hats and T-shirts and everything else. It's true to the time period. You have to be a craft vendor with handmade crafts or handmade something. You can't just come in and sell fair stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah.
What am I trying to say? Tchotchkes. You can't sell that stuff at Johnny Appleseed. All of the goods that are the food that is made is either cooked over an open fire like they would time period, or the apple cider is crushed right there, is pressed right there on site, so you get fresh apple cider. So it's a good festival, great time spent every year going to the Johnny Appleseed Festival. So yeah, it was good. But if you thought this week's album at 3 hours and 53 minutes was a lot,
We're going
Next-
back from Dad's album from today. We're talking 100 years ago. Tell us.
yeah,
Do tell.
1925 to the 1930. So it's a 5-year compilation album. Number 12 on the countdown. And once again, we are using the Jazzwise magazine top 100 albums that shook the world. We're counting down from 100, and we are at number 12 in our countdown. So, number 12 in the countdown, Louis Armstrong, the complete Hot 5 and Hot 7 recordings. And I will just say this, Next week episode, there is going to be something very unprecedented about next week episode. I will not give it away, but you'll have to tune in next week for the unprecedented fact of Louis Armstrong, the complete Hot 5 and Hot 7 recordings. This comes in at 4 hours and 10 minutes. So it's a big compilation. It's a lot of music. Do your due diligence. Do it this week like we talked about. We should have done it with the Blanton Webster. Pick 5 songs to listen to and then put it aside for an hour or come back to it later. Then pick the next 5 songs. Listen reverently to those 5 songs while you're listening to it and then put it down. That's my goal this week with the complete Hot 5 and Hot 7.
Good.
The opening words, and this is where the story really starts. Referring to jazz, the first great jazz soloist, Louis Armstrong. I just noticed this. You got Johnny Dodds and Baby Dodds, Zooty Singleton, and I hadn't noticed that. Kid
Well,
Ory,
You got Jimmy Strong and Lil Hardin Armstrong.
yes, and Earl Hines,
Oh, Father.
Father Hines, Earl Father
Father
Hines. So a lot of music ahead of us, but
So-
it's where it began. All right. Any last words? Cool.
No.
We'll see you all next week as we talk about pops.
Thanks for sticking around this long. Leave us a comment, like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to just leave us a comment. What you
Yeah.
thought about this week's episode.
Yep.
Peace.
All right.